You really need to take James Comer's job because he's terrible at it. Every interview that he does, whether it's on our network or this morning, he showed up on NBC and he got absolutely destroyed.
Though House Republicans just announced that they'll take steps next week to formalize the baseless impeachment inquiry into President Biden, they continue to abjectly humiliate themselves in the meantime in front of the American people. And Jessica Tarlov, the only sane commentator on the Fox propaganda network, took the time to brutally mock the GOP's stupidity in front of her Republican-loving, Biden-hating co-hosts. And it was glorious. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, friends, I've got a few clips to play, but before I do, I want to share with you the most recent news. So Kevin McCarthy announces the impeachment inquiry into President Biden several months ago, but he doesn't back it up with a full vote of the House of Representatives. So based on the logic that Republicans employed during the Trump administration, the White House can ignore a lot of requests unless the impeachment inquiry is backed by a full House vote. Now, McCarthy did it because he didn't have the votes at the time to authorize it, and Democrats have been essentially daring Republicans, okay, if you have the votes, if this is truly legitimate, then vote on it. And Republicans have delayed. But now they seem to be taking steps towards that direction. On December 12th, the House Rules Committee, which is led by Republicans, will take up a resolution to direct certain committees to continue their ongoing investigations as part of the existing inquiry into whether sufficient grounds exist for the House to exercise its constitutional power to impeach Joseph Biden, President of the United States, and for other purposes. So this at least seems to be heading towards the prospect of a full vote in the House. I still don't know if they have the votes for it. There's some indications that they do, and yet they just expelled George Santos. Kevin McCarthy's leaving at the end of the month, and there are 18 Republicans who live in Biden districts. It's going to be a pretty hard vote to sell. In response, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, said Republicans are pursuing their impeachment inquiry against Biden because, quote, they have nothing to show for their narrow, fading, and decreasing majority. Nothing. They want to hide their extreme right-wing agenda from the American people. And that's why we continue to see censure resolution after censure resolution being brought to the floor. And next week, we're going to waste time on an illegitimate impeachment inquiry targeting President Biden and his family. House Oversight Democrats, led by Jamie Raskin, they produced a much longer, stronger statement debunking in relatively short terms, I mean, compared to like a full essay, why James Comer's impeachment inquiry into the president, he's the one leading it as the House chairman or the House Oversight Committee chairman, why it's just absolute nonsense. Now, to prepare you for Jessica Tarlov's brutal takedown, I got to show you an interview, or rather a clip of an interview that she directly cites, and it's hard to watch. It's James Comer, not on Newsmax, not on Fox News, and he struggles with them enough. He actually goes to a relatively credible journalistic source, which is Meet the Press Now on NBC, even though it has its problems. And I want you to watch the next 2 minutes. I want you to watch James Comer flounder and lie to the American people, and then I'll direct you to Jessica.
So, sir, there were the two checks, the $40,000 check and the $200,000 check that came from the president's son and into the president's bank account. There was also subsequent bank records which were provided through the committee that demonstrate that there were also subsequent pieces of information that came from the president to the president's son. So that you're saying that information's been made up then. Where did that information come from? That came from the committee.
I don't know. We haven't seen that information.
That is committee information that is collected from the bank records that your committee has
Just
obtained.
show the check. If Joe Biden wrote his brother
are you
a check
telling me
for
that you have a canceled check for every wire transfer that's ever come into your account?
Well, we have with that wire that we. Yes, you can
personally
show. I can show you
that, and that's what has been shown is there is bank records that demonstrate
You're showing a wire
that an exact same amount of money came.
Okay.
Let's move on.
They're saying that something from. No, it's not. I mean, look.
Are you saying those bank records? Okay, sir. Are you saying those bank records do not exist that show the money leaving the president's account and going into his son's?
There's money. They were money laundering.
Answer this specific question.
You see wires going all over the.
Is there a bank record that demonstrates the exact amount of money that came from the president's account into his son's account that matches the checks that then went back to him? Does that exist? Yes or no?
There's money coming from. No. There's money coming from
that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist, sir.
It does not exist. It's coming from a law firm. Who put the money in the law firm? How do you know the money came from Joe Biden? It could have come from one of Hunter's shell companies. You have no idea.
So you're not. So you are saying that
evidence.
Okay. So you are saying that money exists. That transfer does exist.
No,
They're in the bank records that you
don't know
and
what
your
that
committee.
Transfer is.
Okay.
You don't know what that
you also
transfer
don't know.
is.
So there was so much packed in those 2 minutes. It's truly mind-boggling. Comer lied and moved the goalposts multiple times. He says, listen, those records don't exist. Then he conceded the records exist, but there's no canceled check to corroborate the substance of the records. Then he lies to the American people and says, yes, every wire transfer I've ever had, there is a canceled check to correspond with it. That is absolutely not true. Nobody does that in 2023. I do not accept that at all. Then he says, well, sure, these wire transactions are basically for the same amount, but again, we don't know who provided the money. And he implicitly suggests that it's actually the burden of the president and Hunter Biden to prove, rather than his burden to prove. All sorts of lies and goalpost shifts to accommodate this man's bad faith. Now, in response to this is what Jessica Tarlov has to say to Jeanine Pirro, Greg Gutfeld, Jesse Waters, and Dana Perino, and it is, again, just exquisite.
To your point about all these things that the Republicans have Joe Biden doing, the pictures and the blah, 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 you really need to take James Comer's job because he's terrible at it. Every interview that he does.
Do you see how they all laugh? Dana Perino laughs. If you can see Jesse Waters laugh, Greg Gutfeld's laughing. I can't see Jeanine Pirro, but they know it. They know Comer's terrible. Continue.
Whether it's on our network or this morning, he showed up on NBC, and props to him for going into enemy territory or whatever. He got absolutely destroyed. The big revelation of the week was the under $4,000 truck loan, which has been, it's an old story that the Post had to begin with that came out in 2022. This all occurred in 2018 when he wasn't in office, et cetera. The investigations are going nowhere. I know it's frustrating to you and to Fang or whatever you're going to say, and the diamonds that are all over the place.
100%. I mean, if there is a case to be made against President Biden and Hunter Biden, James Comer and Jim Jordan and Jason Smith, who are the chairman of the 3 relevant committees, they ain't the people to make the case. They need to outsource it to somebody else. Maybe Jesse Waters does need to come in as like some sort of hired gun. Maybe they need to deputize him somehow, because this ain't it, Chief. They are doing an atrocious job. And again, that's not just coming from the liberal media. Fox News hosts have been furious. Peter Doocy, Steve Doocy, Brian Kilmeade, Maria Bartiromo, they have all complained about James Comer's performance in the past year. Now, other things about the impeachment I just want to point out. So Hunter Biden's lawyer, Abby Lowell, cites James Comer's words in a recent letter. Chairman Comer, we write again to communicate the choice we made following your October 31st, 2023 statement on The Benny Show. And he quotes James Comer saying, yeah, Hunter Biden can come before a House committee, a House hearing, and testify. The choice also reflects your September 13th, 2023 statement on Newsmax, coming before the committee in a hearing, and your November 8th, 2023 statement, your cover letter addressed to me. We expect him to be willing to testify before Congress. So James Comer, of course, he knows he's screwed, so he wants to have a private deposition so he can doctor and selectively leak information, as he's done in the past, as we talked about. The vast majority of depositions that were done behind closed doors, James Comer has not released the transcripts of them. Okay, so that's why he's doing this. Now, in response, other Republicans have given the game away in terms of what the goal of this impeachment inquiry is. So this is a clip from Fox News.
Republicans also want to hold an impeachment inquiry vote because they need to put a GOP win on the table for the base.
That's pretty freaking explicit. And then you have a Republican Congressman, Troy Nehls. I don't know if you'll be able to see this quote super well. For what it's worth, Representative Troy Nehls, Republican of Texas, one of Trump's most vocal supporters in the House, this is from the USA Today, has not shied away from pushing for Biden's impeachment, in part to play politics. If Trump, who's been impeached twice, is the 2024 Republican nominee, Nehls said he wants to give Trump, quote, a little bit of ammo to fire back, end quote, and say Biden has also been impeached. Folks, this is very explicit. This is a naked, shameless, hyper-partisan witch hunt, and that is, we are reclaiming that phrase. This is infinitely less substantive than either of the impeachments against Donald Trump, and they're transparent about it. We've played other clips and other excerpts in which Republicans have said maybe we need to tease this out and drag this out in 2024 to try to hurt Biden politically. James Comer is a clown. The Republican Party is a clown show. And everybody needs to consider this. Everybody needs to keep this in mind before they cast their ballots in 2024. And that is why, once again, you should vote blue no matter who. Let me know what you think in the comments.